Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I'm so grateful that some of us escaped the age of superstitions. That is, those times when we interpreted, natural causes or, natural events as somehow a sign from the divinity. Remember the thunderbolt and others. I'm not going to get into it. I'm so glad that some of us were capable of using reason, and that's why I admire and I thank the ancient Greeks. They were the first ones who said, wait a second. But they didn't escape that either. They were just a bunch, and they spread it to us, and some of us picked it, and some of us, or some of them, did not. What am I talking about? We have here an article coming from Ukrainska Pravda, and the main personage here is Mr. Alexei Danilov. This person, I have to say from the get-go, gives me a little bit of an uneasy feeling for two reasons. One, and not necessarily this being the correct order. One, his appearance, and the appearance really gives me something that, after you go through life, you kind of start understanding and knowing people in a certain way, not that kind. And the other one is his statements. And I think that his statements were confirming my first impression of Mr. Danilov, which was visual, first one. And you can say, well, Emil, you are just a servant of, of a self-fulfilling prophecy or something. Well, I'm just sharing this with you, and then I'm going to jump into this article where he claims that Vladimir Putin, who visited, I think, Kherson and Luhansk oblasts, it was not Putin. It was one of his many, many, many doubles. Well, that would create a big problem for the defenders of truth and the promoters of peace. If you have more than one Putin, then what? What are we going to do? All right, so let's see what he says here and what evidence he provides. And I'm going to discuss more than just his claims. This article comes from Ukrainska Pravda. This is from Wednesday, today, 19th of April 2023. This is Mr. Danilov. And Putin's double visited Kherson Oblast, Ukraine's National Security Council secretary. Now, this is what he says. He can say it, we can analyze it, we can be we can make fools of ourselves. That's a freedom of expression. So he's okay, I'm okay. Now, I'm going to tell you how the free mass media and the accurate mass media here in the West and Ukraine analyzed Putin's visit, or alleged visit, since it was a double, in those occupied territories. They said that it was not him because he's a coward. The second one was, well, Putin doesn't really care about his army, so I don't know why he showed up over there, So these were the main things. And the other one is that he's very scared of germs, and he's got cancer, terminal cancer, and that's not him because he's a scaredy cat. Well, if you just bother to look into Putin's life, just to look, you don't have to believe me. I urge you not to believe me. I want you to verify everything I say, okay? Because that's the way you reach the truth. I might be a weasel as well as this guy here. But anyway, here you have it. Putin, if you look at in his biography, you will find out if his actions, not interpretation of his actions, show that he is, as I just mentioned, these guys are trying to portray him. I don't know, just you check. All right, so let's go back to this article and see Mr. Danilov. Here you have it. You have him. Alexei Danilov, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, is convinced, well, he must have evidence, You can't be otherwise convinced, right? That it was not Russian President Vladimir Putin who visited the temporarily occupied territories of Kherson and Luhansk Oblast, but one of his doubles. My question is, what difference would it make if it's him or not? It's just a kindergarten quarrel? Anyway, Danilov on air said this during the National Joint 24/7 newscast. But every time when Zelensky visits the front, it's him. It's only him. And I guarantee you it's only one like Zelensky. Some others that might look like him, act like him, but anyway. Quote from Danilov. Well, first of all, Putin was not there. Okay. This is the well-known fact. Well, if it's so well known, why don't I know it? I just find it from you, because you're so smart. In order to communicate with the real Putin, you must spend at least 10 to 14 days in quarantine. There was no Putin there. There was an ordinary double, of which he has more than one. This is also a well-known fact. All right, let's see this well-known fact. His argument is that you must spend at least 10 to 14 days in quarantine. That's his basic thing, basic fact that he is proposing. Now my question is to you, do you think that the president of China, Xi Jinping, quarantined 10 to 14 days before seeing his counterpart Putin? Do you think the defense minister of China spent 10 to 14 days in quarantine because he's going to meet Putin? Do you think that Guterres or other guys who showed up over there, I can't remember if Guterres showed up, but others like Scholz before, do you think that they all quarantined for Putin? I don't think so. That's idiotic, to say the least. Macron visited him at one point. Do you think that Macron said, yes, Mr. Putin, I will quarantine? Do you think so? So that's absurd, okay? But I think Mr. Danilov still thinks that sometimes Zeus, when he's angry, he just throws some thunderbolts, all right? And that's why when it's like thunderbolts, or you see, like, oh my God, flashes, that must have been Zeus. Or who knows who, okay? Maybe some locusts are going to be sent by someone else. Or I don't know, other stuff, leprosy and things like this will be sent by, So, all right, this is his first and the strongest argument. Let's go to something else. Maybe he's got some more in his sleeve. Danilov stated that Putin is a frightened person. Now this, again, I would like you to guys look into Putin's biography and see if that proves this. It doesn't mean that sometimes you're afraid, and you're afraid sometimes, but you still do things. That means courage, if you do things without being frightened. Anyway, and it is simply impossible to think that he could come in such a way. So he tells us that he knows that he is a frightened person. I would like to see facts and evidence for that to support this statement. And it's simply impossible to think that he could come in such a way. If you base it on this explanation that you just have, this is the only explanation you can give. And based on this statement, you make the point that it's impossible to think. Therefore, it was not him. Again, hey Danilov, some thunderbolts are coming tonight. I think Zeus did not have an erection this afternoon, so he's a little bit upset. Okay, this secretary, Danilov, recalled how foreign guests are seated at the table at a great distance from the Russian dictator, and Putin's trips, he said, are a whole procedure where the preparatory process starts in 2 to 3 weeks, and there is no impromptu events there for a long time. Well, Danilov, there are some of us who were maybe not actively involved in such things, but know firsthand, secondhand, not firsthand, and have information on, for instance, in the 70s. How do you think the Biden travels? Do you think he just shows up? Do you think there's no preparations? When he shows up somewhere, do you know what's going on with all the buildings around? Do you know what's going on? All buildings around. Do you know how prepared people are? I remember when Ceausescu, the dictator, that was in the 70s and 80s. 70s and 80s. The children were disinfected when they had to touch his hands, when he was having them in a hand and so on. They would wash with, I can't remember what, alcohol, whatever it was, to disinfect their hands. That was in the 70s, 80s. What do you think right now? It is. Yes, everything is organized, very well organized. You can just show up and see Putin right now. I'm going to tell you why. There's a lot of method to infect a leader, and they know it, you know it. It's many ways to do it, many ways. And they try to avoid that, and I guarantee you, these guys avoid that too. All right? Why are you concerned, for instance, with, let's say, Joe Biden not even taking questions? Or takes questions and then he just... Where are the press conferences? The regular press conferences, the president. Are you concerned with that kind of thing? No? And then why not? I am very concerned with that. All right, let's move on. Danilov, you know that's a preparatory thing in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Yes, and I'm quoting, this is the exact opposite to our president. Okay, all right. Who can visit the contact line at any time and be directly with our military personnel. This is our difference. The difference from Putin's bunker old man who will soon be afraid of himself. Dino summed up. All right, well, if Zelensky shows up and visits the contact line, that's great. That's great. He's going to see people that he sends to death. That's good. That's his choice. If he has a different way of doing things, that's good. That means he's courageous. Other people are not that courageous. That's true, Danilov. But you still don't have the evidence to say that he's a frightened man. And if you look at the history, that was a clown and that guy was a KGB agent, spy in a foreign country. So who's afraid? The clown or this guy? I mean, just to mention one incident. I can give you another story when the so-called the Berlin Wall, when it fell. The crowds came at KGB building in East Germany, in East Berlin. You know who showed up outside to meet the crowds? That frightened old man. You can find that story many times told in internet. And you can say, well, that's false. Well, what can I tell you? He showed up outside, faced the crowd, and he said, well, this is what's going to happen. I can't let you go in. Because over there are some people that will defend it. So I can't let you go in. You can pass by me. Now, I don't know if you ever faced an angry crowd that were ready to maybe to lynch you on the spot. But I think that showed courage. Don't you? Be it this or be it that, doesn't matter. The action of any person, regardless how handsome, how stupid, how evil that person is, the act is what, we analyze, not the person, and the act, then it goes to the person that shows that. So I think some people showed courage in certain kind of events where their lives was at stake. Well, Zelensky was in a bunker, if you remember, just to mention that by passing, until Putin promised the former Prime Minister of Israel that he's not going to kill him 2 times. And then the guy called him from Moscow airport before he left, called Zelensky and told him Putin promised not to, don't worry. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. I made a video on that. I provided the former Prime Minister of Israel's statement in that 4-hour interview that he had. I think it was televised on a podcast or something. Go and check it out. All right? So, and then he showed up, your president, and said, I'm not afraid. After the guy called him in 2 hours, he showed up outside. Anyway, if you're courageous, very good. But don't imply things that you're just being an Danilov. I think I'm going to start I don't want to install the name Danilov because I would have used Danilov to say having a bad connotation. I don't think the name Danilov deserves this just because this guy is So I don't know if he was. Probably has doubles. I have no doubt that he has doubles. I don't know, say I don't have no doubt. I would be inclined to think, many presidents has had doubles in the free world, not only the dictators. All right, so I don't know what the problem is. And if he didn't show up, he didn't show up. So can you imply it? Oh yeah, the conclusion is because he's scared. Maybe he's doing that. Yes, he doesn't want to be assassinated. Is that something that he should expose himself? I mean, should he be that idiot to show what Danilov that he's courageous and then he gets blown up by HIMARS, for instance? Yes? No? Was he the one who was driving down on the Crimean bridge? Or it was someone else, another double? Was he the one that came in the middle of the night again on the front? Was it he? Was it he or it was someone else? Again, I don't give a if he was. I'm just analyzing this guy's statements with the thunderbolt still there, with the superstitious mind that this guy has, you know. And he's the national security advisor or so, whatever, secretary. Well, that's why I'm sorry for the Ukrainian nation. Has a clown, has a Zhmihal, all right. Then had Reznikov. Go and look at Reznikov's biography. For me, I looked over it. Okay, and he's the defense minister. Right? Good luck with that one. And so on. So, you got Yermak as well. And one person that I really, just to balance it, not that I need to, but it just came, is in my head, is Zaluzny. As of now, Zaluzny did not say stupid stuff. On the contrary, he seemed like an, from his statements, his behavior, like a Ukrainian. Okay? Let's put it this way. And Ukrainians are good people. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, except Danilov. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.